Is the Mythic raiding scene falling apart? I have noticed a lot of Mythic raiding guilds, calling it quits, saying they're retiring. Is the scene falling apart? Race to World First still seems popular. Let's see what Bellular has to say about this.
Is Mythic raiding, as it currently stands in World of Warcraft, the Dragonflight Within?
The Dragonflight Within.
Is it sustainable or is it not?
Is it dead forever?
So the headline rule states that if the headline is a question, the answer is no. Not quite true here. Not quite true here because big statement here from
Big Dumb Gaming Guild.
BDG.
Yeah, this is the one I saw recently.
Big statement. Big statement. But they're disbanding as a hardcore and Race to War First guild.
Oh, no.
One of the biggest guilds in the world, and just like, nah. To sum this up, it's not really working, and we couldn't be bothered.
That's the way to sum it up, but
yeah. So here's like declining leadership.
I mean, if it's not fun anymore, don't do it. Yeah.
From Lots' actually own opinion, like as the leader.
This would have been more understandable during Shadowlands, honestly. During Sepulchre of the first ones, when Mythic raiding was had just gotten to a dumb level of difficulty. I'm kind of surprised that this is happening now because I feel like things are pretty well balanced.
It's like, don't feel the same level of passion from back in the Castle and Sanctum days.
Castle days. Castle was great.
Gone,
Sanctum, though?
Having to change out the officer team, business partner stepping away, etc. It's kind of, it just doesn't feel worth the effort to go in because of the lack of support, both from actual players and from everything else. Core players
are just not feeling it.
Retiring or burning out or going to the top 3.
It seems like a core problem is the middle.
Or taking offers from the top 3. I think that's a major one. Man, it's just like corporate America. The big are absorbing the little. Yeah, so a lot of these guys are just taking offers to go to the bigger boys where the sponsors currently are and the money currently is.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not the middle.
Yeah, they're
like off the top 200, they're high up.
Yeah, they're the very top of the middle.
But I mean, even what Dakar and our team was talking about for like his bunch again, they're not like the tip top, but they're cutting edge every cutting edge every season. I think they were a feeder for World First. Guilds at a point anyway, and they're also gone. It does seem that quite a lot of guilds are actually sort of going in that top 200 sphere.
Yeah.
So if the middle falls out, then that's going to be a problem.
Because then there's no feeder guilds to feed to the top.
Yep.
There's no top then. Oops.
That's probably
no
true.
The top collapses.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is obviously like the losing core players, but then the loss of sponsorship is to do as well. Where it's like, if no one, like the money doesn't come from playing the game.
No.
Where does the money come from? It comes from being
sponsors, right?
From creating the entertainment around it.
And like, put it this way, if we do a video that has a sponsor on it, the sponsor will be worth, like multiple times what the video will get in AdSense. And what we do here is only viable because of direct support from members and sponsors. Now,
it makes sense. That's why NordVPN. That's what I think of when I think of Bellular. But yeah, I mean, sponsorships are a huge factor when it comes to just content creation in general. So it makes sense that a lot of these middle tier guilds or middling guilds that have been pushing this stuff, and they're not going to be able to compete with the big boys like Echo and Method because of sponsorships. Yeah, sponsorships are going to give you more money than the entire event is ever going to generate. So, of course, they'll never be able to compete when it comes to what they offer the players in terms of pay.
That sponsors is currently vastly larger. I want to be able to decrease sponsors and increase direct stuff from our community because, honestly, I don't want to care about views anymore. And AdSense and
that's a good feeling
are
for
all
sure.
about views directly with your community, though. That is the people who actually enjoy what you're making. I would far rather be that. Like, as an example, most recent video we released in the Warcraft channel, like on the YouTube dashboard, 10 out of 10. You go into the comments, loads of people are like, that was really great. I loved it. It's that kind of lore that we enjoy. I'd far rather be, doing that for less people and us all enjoying it more.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's going to be like that for them where like the costs of actually running, especially when you're sort of like Big Dumb, where they're big enough to be able to do sponsors and, to sort of do more sort of org stuff. But, there's them. I mean, Pieces went a while ago. Midwinter went a while ago. Like, of that kind of you know, those guilds that would be in the top 10, but not the top 3 as much, like they've been dropping off.
Yeah, and rightly so, because like you kind of have to wonder. Obviously, like as to say here, makes it hard for anyone to justify the time commitment outside of extreme passion, which, frankly speaking, most people lose in about 2 tiers. And I see.
Man, the scene requires money that doesn't exist anymore. I wonder, is this just a money thing, or are they just not enjoying the game that much? I wonder. Or does the popularity of the game kind of ebb and flow now, which means you get, you know, influxes of money and then just long droughts without money? Yeah, probably both. Probably double factored.
It was yeah, point in chat. Turns out raiding for 15 hours a day at the start of every tier makes you burn out.
Yeah.
It's not even raiding that much. It's also all the prep involved as well, because it's a different
To be
story.
fair, though, the game is not meant to be played that way. Like, these guys, you got to remember, these guys play at an extreme level. Like, their engines are running crazy hot the entirety of that, you know, early period where a new raid launches or a new raid is about to launch. The game is not meant to be played that way. But these guys, you know, this is the kind of path they've chosen. The race to world first is going to make you play the game in a weird way.
From, like, it's a different story to you look at, like, the higher end of, like, FF14 Savage Raiders. And a lot of them, like, they'll block book a couple weeks off work. Like 2 weeks off work, and that's them. Maybe 3. And sometimes, like, we didn't get the kill before our people are back to work. Oh, shit, well, that's it. But there's no, like, insane prep up to that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of, like, that, but it's not nowhere near as much as get to go do it. And that's, like, substantially more sustainable for them. Obviously, it's less interesting, because obviously there's the whole narrative around building the RPG side of it and all of the splits. And obviously it's a smaller scene in that front, but it is there as like the actual ask is huge. The ask is absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's like they're like pro athletes.
This also has
the amount of time they put in.
This has to pay 20 people because of the time required. They have to pay the support staff to make entertainment, because this is also esports at the same time. This is one of the big things about being one of the top guilds. This isn't just them playing the game. It's them playing the game to match people who are playing it full time and running esports orgs and everything as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
it kind of goes, well, if you're not going to be in the top whatever, what's the point?
Yeah, you're already at a
Yeah,
disadvantage.
it's damn hard.
If you're not playing full time, you're definitely at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and it also helps that it's extremely difficult to actually do, which is the insane part. It's a literal hard game. It's extremely hard. Almost too hard, because maybe it's a little bit designed for the absolute insane. Like,
Yeah, it's not designed for any of this.
Like, yeah,
This is all
what if we
insane.
make our game for 60 people? You're like,
Make
Yeah,
the game.
because like you look at what's required in it is a lot.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, well, you know what? We'll skim through. This is something we'll turn into a video. As it is, it's very, very large. It's about 5,000 words. So
so this is, and I'll just hide a little bit of that. So this is a 5,500 word essay
Jesus.
from our ex-Mythic reader, Dakar.
So our thing basically is we've been seeing this going on, sort of talking about it, and
Well, I mean, we know the effects of this because we couldn't raid Mythic for a while, and it was the race to the race to world first happened, which is fun to watch. But then they have that 200 guild requirement, which was ridiculous, because it's just not going to happen anymore. They had to remove the faction restriction a while back, and now they're going to even remove that 200 guild requirement because you're just waiting. And there's not enough guilds running it anymore at this high level to be able to complete it. 200 guilds took months to finish, which was just, it was just an arbitrary lockout at that point. So they're getting rid of that. So the Mythic raiding scene is certainly shrinking, but as is the entirety of the player base, really. I mean, that's, I think, what it comes down to. You're obviously going to, probably the people who are going to burn out the quickest are the most impassioned and the people who play the most, which are these Mythic raiders. That makes sense.
Another death.
Asherana! Yes, thank you, 10
Sam,
months.
less than 3.
What's up? Thank you so much for the sub. Death Knight of our
this week
Scourge.
greenlit a video
Welcome
on it.
back.
And the first thing to do is laying out opinions, laying out thoughts based on everything that's happened, which is what this is. So obviously the full video being 5,500 words would be pretty unsustainable.
Yeah, this is
That'd be very long.
Yeah, this will be.
But so we'll boil things down a little bit. And if we were going through all of the 5,000 words, then this would not really be sort of possible. But basically the point is, number one, Emir Drasil, The Dream's End. that's a really good chapter heading. Big, big agree.
Dreams end, yeah.
But tuning and balancing, right? Basically, to talk about things, this is the very short version.
Yeah.
We will go into depth later. But essentially, right, it feels to a lot of them like things are tuned for a really good race to world first,
Right.
where the race to world first people, they get near maximum gear pretty quick. And then Blizzard chips it away with nerfs. And then that's just that's not a fun place for difficulty to be, Blizzard said, right, back, or Ian said, we'd rather not have to nerf things 20 times for the rank 100, rank 1000, rank 5000 kills to be able to blaze the same trail afterwards. To which,
makes sense.
Kind of thinking, did they forget they said that?
Yeah, because they just straight up did that straight away again.
And there's more examples.
I mean, they had to nerf the shit out of this raid to be able to get the 200 guilds. The top 200, I mean, that took forever. They had to nerf T-Swift like 50 times over to be able to make it happen.
So number one, the moving of goalposts, also non-linear progression with wall bosses, and obviously utility
T-Swift
being required in a
was
way
a wall
that's very
boss.
fixed, and something where you've got a very, a fixed team size, to the point where you've got like 5 people spare once you've covered your bases, and it's a 20-man comp. Now, moving into some other things then. The prevalence of binary wipe mechanics. And again, this is the Cliff Notes, quick chat about it on the stream before we will publish a more considered
You don't
piece
do the
later.
thing, you die.
But the prevalence of binary raid wipes again. And, so for Smolderon, there's 1, Tindrel 4, Farak 4. But Ian, they said before, again, in and around Shadowlands, that they don't want to do that anymore because, or not anymore, but, they didn't want that to be as much of a thing because in Sepulchre, it really damaged
Oh my
shit.
god. Anduin was a wipe fest. Anduin had about 3 to 4 mechanics that if you didn't do them, if every person in the raid wasn't absolutely perfect on them, it was a wipe instantly. And there was the Lich King phase where you got to burst him down. What else was there? There was the matching phase with the purple and yellow circles. You guys remember that shit? One group didn't match, raid is dead. There was the what else? There was the silencing of the ads phase, where the big skeletal ads would come up, and if they weren't interrupted, the raid would die. There was the cleansing at the end of the yellow dots. If somebody didn't cleanse themselves in the center circle, they died. And not just them, but everybody. Yeah, Anduin sucked. Anduin was a tough fight. Probably, to me, it goes down as the toughest fight ever. But that's why I'm kind of shocked that wasn't the time that these guilds retired, but they're retiring now.
Yep.
So then also Private Auras.
And there were tons of other ones.
The way sometimes, the way like a lot of the more like the libertarian side would say like, yes, government intervention to solve the problem will often have the opposite of the intended result. That's kind of happened actually with Private Auras.
Awesome tweet.
Yeah. Where it still means the people with weak aura squads are disproportionately strong, and the rest are still kind of waiting up behind. Just Private Auras don't seem to have worked for a variety.
Weak auras are required essentially to raid it, especially at that level.
For a variety of
wrong.
reasons. Raider.io did a big article on this topic as well. I mean, just the start. Most guilds below the Race to World First level must wait for WeakAuras packages to be released and struggle through Lua codes to get some of them working in the first place, despite in-depth I mean, just what a situation.
How can you read this and not immediately go, we need to fucking fix this at Blizzard? Numerous guilds lost entire raid nights of valuable for rack progression time because they could not effectively troubleshoot their weak aura packages. Bro, what?
Yeah, that's messed up.
I would nope out so fast. I would
the worst example of this was the again, back to Sepulchre of the first ones. That raid was like near impossible. But the Dreadlords fight. You guys remember the Dreadlords fight, the whole Among Us phase where you needed to vote on the weak aura. You needed to have it. Everybody had to have it so you could vote and see who the Dreadlord was. That was ridiculous. I mean, if that was the way to do it, Blizzard should have just put a little voting system in the fight at that time, and it would have been cool. That would have actually made the mechanic fun. Just voting in the middle of the fight and everyone trying to get that shit right. But having to do it through a weak aura and then making sure, like, before every pull Maybe somebody left from the one before. Now you add a new guy. You got to make sure he has the weak aura, knows how to use it. That stuff's it's outside of the game mechanics, and it's ridiculous that it was required.
Some
It's just
Tom
bad
and Jerry
boss
Looney
design.
Tunes
Yeah,
ass
basically.
shit.
Yeah.
Where it's like I've already run out the door and my after image is there and there's like a trail of fire where my feet were. That would be how fast I would nope out. If it was, sorry, you can't play your troubleshooting WeakAuras instead, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this.
Like even just like
Go away.
are private aura coded mechanics still solvable in some way for guilds without a weak aura expert in the midst? Like if that question is being asked
Then they've fucked their design up so unbelievably badly.
and
Yeah.
going to the final thing, there may be middle ground yet between automation, weak auras, and blank slate progression without leaning on third-party solutions, but private auras do not seem to be the answer we were looking for, and maybe Blizzard have came to the same conclusion themselves. This is maybe more relevant because with Emirdrasil there were more private auras than there were in Aberys, but of course Aberys was the first example of that. For other things, mechanic, visual consistency stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty
Talked
true.
about that plenty.
That's pretty true. Red boss, red floor,
Nimue.
red walls, red lighting, red mechanics, red
Yeah.
everything. Smolderon was such a fucking pain in the ass. Let's say this tweet's so small.
Smolderon, there are plenty of moments in Smolderon, yeah, where I can't see where shit is landing. It happens in T-Swift, too, where there's just so much going on and a lot of the same color shit hitting the ground that you can't really tell what is.
Then, of
what.
course, right, this is something...
This
it matter?
Was me, like, this was me. This was me actually playing this the first time.
Yeah.
Both the
Why
red
is
mechanic and the
everything
red
on
room.
fire?
Moving a little bit on, just talking about like UI stuff. Where I am now in the user interface, you'll be able to see my little Notion dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. 6 man's way.
Oh, Control F, just Control F user interface. There you go. There's me. Hello.
There we go.
Look at me. I'm running away. No. Anyway, basically, you got to heal the little tree boys and stuff in Laradar.
Yep. Yeah, Laradar.
And you're like, cool. Why is that not easy to do?
Heal
Yeah,
the
why
tree
do you
boys
not
and heal
have
the roots.
Little frames pop up.
Yeah,
and you're
because
"Can
like
I do
me and all the other healers, like we're doing that based on our unit frames, like mouse over macros or
Yeah.
click casting or whatever the hell you're using. So it's really, really annoying when you have to deal with healing the trains. Even though I actually love those mechanics.
Yeah, it's just
yeah, I
you
think it's
want
a
them
cool
to show up
mechanic.
as like party members or something, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
I don't know,
just
maybe healers in the chat can speak to this. I didn't realize this was annoying to switch to ads and heal them up because I tanked this fight. But I mean, I'm definitely always yelling at the healers, hey, go heal the trees. Go heal the trees. And I'm not sure what's required to do that, but they do it.
add them in a flipping frame so I can click on it.
Yeah.
Then talking about chase items, legendaries, the impacts that those end up having.
Oh yeah,
where
just demoralization, guns shot to the head every time you roll.
and then the downsides of the 20-player requirement.
Oh, legendaries. He's going to talk about them.
This is where I think most of the problem will ultimately lie. 20 players is a fucking lot of players.
Yeah.
like
For
it's
Mythic?
not just
FF is 8.
yeah. So
8.
put it this way:
It's like a part.
getting 20 people is not twice as hard as getting 10 people. I don't know how this works, but it
We're
seems
doing
like
heroic.
with
Yeah,
groups,
it's not linear,
with,
obviously.
with group size scaling, it is maybe not exponential, but it's definitely not linear scaling the difficulty to organize people.
I mean, in the industry, don't they
Becomes
talk about
impossible.
one producer to 6 or 7 direct reports?
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
I think you can get 20. We get 20 together. The problem and the main problem with Mythic is the lockout feature. It's the dumbest thing, and I've been saying it for a long time. It's very easy to put a heroic group together. 20 people for heroic. I mean, you guys see when I post that queue up, we're done like in freaking 5 minutes. The group is filled and we're off. But for Mythic, it's near impossible because everybody's scared they're going to get locked to somebody else's lockout, and or they are already locked because it's not freaking right after reset and they've already run that shit with somebody else. It's ridiculous. The stupid Mythic lockout makes it so hard to form up a group, and it really locks a lot of people out of the content who never get to do it. Because the people who are running it want to run it with people who know how to do it, and the people who never run it can't ever get a group together because the guys who know how to do it don't want to run it with them. They don't want to get locked with them. It's the dumbest thing, and they need to fix that shit.
So
hang on.
Just get rid of the lockout.
Is that 8 people?
Lock people to specific bosses the same way you do in Heroic. Don't have this entirety of a raid lockout for the week.
think of, yeah, like just even think about team sizes at work. And yeah, it's
thinking
not...
base 4, not base 5.
for
Team sizes?
for loads of people, right? It's basically somebody's like extra job to run a mythic guild, to run a mythic team.
Oh yeah,
And
Imagine.
that's even in this case, Dakor's Ray Leader, like that was part of it. It was just straight up, I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm tired, boss. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not healthy. If this was 8 people, if it was 10 people,
Mythic rating and health
far
don't go
more
hand in
healthy.
hand, that's for sure.
But, what about the way that class utility is being handled?
Yeah.
How's that going to interface? Because if you do Mythic 10, you're not going to tick those boxes because in terms of group comp, currently, if you scroll
Let
down
us lay
just
waste to this realm.
The Lazarus, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge.
that is one of the typical baseline raid comps.
Yep.
Just so
15.
that you've got every unique raid buff and ability. Which,
Well, except for the 2 Yogs there.
So this is the ultimate comp.
yeah. And now there's
right,
only
Blood
5
Decay.
there's 5 slots left.
Okay.
Now that is not, think about it, that's not sustainable. And if you want to do 10, so that you got sustainability, now
Double
people are
aug.
juggling the relative strengths of all of these different things, and then that is going to make 10 feel even more fixed and prescriptive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, Donuts is saying.
Also, the people who don't play these classes or don't play these class/spec combos, they're essentially out of Mythic rating. You don't get to Mythic rate.
10-man rating
That's
is what
dumb.
got us class homogenization. For good reason.
Where the pink
Because
class
that was
is
how
at, they're
10-man
here.
rating was going to
There's
bounce.
prod.
Yeah.
Holy.
Because if you do
Kinda have
this,
to be.
if you do this, you can't bounce it.
Yeah. So maybe like, how does that
Well, I
feel?
mean, they should be able to.
It's almost
They can't.
done.
They can't. Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like you just do it for it. You can't really say that. And FF gets with it because it has the body
must
buff.
do it.
Like everyone has a fixed comp, but it's within categories. Where instead of like that, instead of say where that was assassination, instead like there's the melee group. Imagine if that was, well, obviously that's 2 leather plate and a meal. Imagine if it was like, well, you can bring a plate or a
Man.
meal, or you can bring a leather. And then, like, say you give all the leather melee classes some buff, and you give the plate and meal melee class another buff. And you go, that'll be a little bit closer to how FF works, because FF does it with like, right, well, you're going to bring your, you're going to bring your magic DPS, your physical DPS, you're going to bring your melee, you're going to bring your, your.
What
2
about
different
fights
types of
that
tanks,
favor more
and
melee
you're gonna wanna
than
bring
ranged?
your
Those
shield
exist
healer
too, or the
and
opposite.
your pure healer. So it is kind of fixed there, but it goes well. You've got 2 choices for pure healer, you've got 2 choices for shield healer, multiple choices for DPS, multiple choices for range DPS and physical DPS. You've got multiple choices for that, and obviously, yeah, FF is suffering from it with the 2-minute CD design, but that's different from. Well, it's not that different.
I mean, honestly,
If you
me
c-
personally, in a perfect world, you guys know how I feel about group size. I want 40-man raids. I want to go all the way to 40-man. Shit, I'd take it to 45, 50 if they would let me. I like the giant raids. I like the feel of it, but I understand that mechanically it makes things more challenging. Which is, goes back to kind of a difficulty balance, but I love the big raid, man. I love the feeling of just a tons of people shooting at the same big boss, trying to kill it all together. That's the best, man. I don't want to go in with 8 people. Shit. 8 people feels tiny.
Cut class buffs like.
If people
Mug
can't
and stuff
do the
like that,
DPS, then it's GG. Yeah.
you'd get away with the 2-minute problem. If people were responsible for individual DPS, the problem is that the 2-minute CD window came from needing
Certainly
all
the
that
one-shot mechanics become more and more of a problem the bigger the grade gets. That's for
comes at
sure.
the same time to be within
More chance
everyone's
of
buffs to
people
buff
fucking
everyone
shit
else.
up.
So you'd have to cut the support element of buffs to make that actually balanced. But yeah, that's how they do it. But it is ultimately like I'll tell you what it is, Michael. I can't look at this and see an unsolvable problem. Like, you can't tell me you can't just cut 5 arbitrarily off this in 10-man thing and make it work. It feels like, sure, there's some sub-optimization, or there's some.
It'd have to be the
suboptimal,
DPS that get
but why
cut,
can't you
really.
just not make that work? Why can't you make?
You can.
Yeah,
You can make it work.
yeah. So that's
Well,
why
look,
that's why I kind of don't.
Problem is
I-
design.
They can use
Yeah.
their
How
scaling
How many
system.
of the mythic only designs will you be able to just, half the things and have it still work?
Yeah, well, I mean, design it for 10 people. Like,
Yeah.
like just design it different.
There you go.
Just
yeah.
make
I
it
guess,
different, but good. That would just make it different.
Yeah.
Just make it different and better. And this is where the problem comes from. I think this
I mean, if you got a 9-man
is-
raid, there's a lot of those fights that split people. If you're splitting a 9-man raid, you're gonna have what, 4 go to one side, 5 to the other, like the serpent boss or whatever his name is in the current raid. I don't know. It just feels tiny. Each side would have to have a tank, so that side with 4 is gonna have 2 DPS, a tank, and a healer.
Do you think Mythic's too hard?
I think Mythic is substantially hard because obviously it's way too hard because it requires nerf
Mythic is hard.
to Oblivion consistently, and the problem is that people are raiding
It
for
requires
15, 16
perfection.
hours a day whenever it's time to raid.
Are Blizzard
is-
scared that Max and Scripe will kill it too quickly and it will be
Yeah.
like why
Yeah, I
else
think they're-
Yeah,
are they
yeah.
clearly overtuned?
They
for-
said they're not going to focus on Race to World First anymore, but it's clearly what they're still worried about. If that's why they're not making it too easy. They don't want the Race to World First to end in one day.
the majority of the
But
Mythic
it's the
playing
wrong way
player
to make
base.
the raid.
because they're passionate about the race to world first and the like excellence that they can.
Yeah,
do.
they keep
So
on
they make
saying that it's a community event and they didn't make it. And they absolve themselves from lots of responsibility.
Yeah, but they still want to reap the rewards because
Yeah, make a fucking choice, though.
Tasty.
If you want the
Tasty rewards.
if you want the game to be better, sacrifice the Race to World First as a multi-week sponsorino event. Yeah, it'll suck for people for whom that's their like only business. But you know what? I think they'll be fine. You can't be a one-trick pony, right? That's not a sustainable
Yeah.
thing anyway. In Destiny 2, right? Like their big race is, it's measured in days. And nobody's I mean, it's Destiny. People are furious about everything, but
And rightly so. Destiny did
it'll
kill
do.
video games.
It'll do. So maybe there's
It's
a
a-
version of Mythic that doesn't.
It's a tough one, but yeah, Race to World First is Mythic rating, unfortunately. They're tied at the hip, and that's why we get some of these crazy-ass mechanics.
lead to as amazing. Because look, everyone was talking about how amazing Amirdrasil was at the start, and it was amazing Race to World First, and yeah, great. And a lot of the people who said that at that time were thought leaders within the community.
Thought leaders.
Why now are we seeing lots of criticism be leveled at the tier?
because
This is the difference between the fucking spectator sport that everyone's enjoying and then the game bit that people play.
Yeah, it's almost like they're now this doesn't really line up, but it's almost as if rules are being changed in games for like the top end. I'm
They
not
are.
actually thinking about like how normal people play.
No, they
It's
are.
like I'm
They're
trying to think of
totally
an example, but I'm
being
not really
changed
a
for that.
huge sports guy, so it doesn't come easy. But imagine things like basketball, where it's like, well, what's like a 3-pointer? Well, we had to nerf those because people at the top end were getting way too good at full court shots because literally just skill got good. And over the course of America, people have started being 7 foot tall now, so they're just like, I just wee, there we go. There's a 3-pointer. So like they just nerf that, and then everyone else who plays the game at like a normal level goes, I'm not taking your fucking rule update, dumbass. I'm gonna play the basketball I like. So I think that's like that's kind of the thing where they're making it for these people and then trying to slim it down and shove it into the box that is other players.
Yeah.
That does happen in sports. Yeah, well, it shouldn't. Actually, if you've got an example, that would be nice. I can't
No,
remember
that
ever
doesn't happen in
playing a
sport.
sport and then someone changing the rule because it didn't make sense for. Like a normal
Well, I mean, I guess there are some rules in sports that have been changed to try to, to offset the fact that people have gotten better at shit and it's still supposed to be challenged. I don't think they ever like raised the hoop height. They did drop the 3-point line back in the NBA, didn't they, at one point? Because people were just getting too good at shooting 3-pointers. I'm trying to think of stuff that's happened in the NFL. The only rule changes that have really happened in the NFL is that, in fact, they've tried to make it more about point scoring because that's better for viewership. So they've created a lot of rules that, don't, pass interference rules, don't pull in the wide receiver, hands off kind of stuff. They try to help the offense out more. But in terms of making the game more difficult, yeah, I can't think of an NFL rule that did that. The best one's probably the NBA 3-point line being moved back.
But I feel like the actual solution is definitely just going, what if we drastically rethink this and stop making this for the Race to World First? And now it's kind of the problem.
Bottom up, it should be an emergent community thing, not something that, Blizzard's handling like that, in my opinion.
I think that's where the issue comes. Is I feel like the raid team probably really love doing that. And this is the awkward part where it's like,
Key Astro
I
that
don't want to
kills it.
say developers don't do what you want to do, because then, well, shit. Well, that's your kind of your job. It's supposed to be passionate. It's supposed to do things you like, because then you'll put the best work into it. But it is a little bit what it called? It feels a little bit shit that so much of the community is suffering for.
I don't know about suffering, but they just don't get to experience the
And
Mythic
that's clearly
content
what
because it's
happened, right?
badly designed.
That's clearly what is happening. Because there's no way,
Yeah.
because Mythic is not being designed for the average player here.
It's not.
No, well, then the average Mythic player, I should say. Because I don't know if I would not commit to this, but I actually kind of wouldn't mind Mythic raiding if it were 10 man.
Oh, 100%. I
But
agree.
there's no chance.
I
in
did
hell
fire.
I'd
I
money.
prefer I prefer 10.
Yeah.
It's annoying. Like, what would be ideal? Because we're in this weird position now. Mythic is too hard and inaccessible because of team size and organizational stuff and,
Yeah, and
outside
stupid
of raid night
lockouts.
work requirement.
Dumb lockouts.
But heroic's too easy.
Yeah, heroic is.
Heroic is too easy for me now.
It has kind of killed a little bit of what, like, our guild's playing.
yeah,
that we
for us
just walk
probably
into
too.
Heroic, and even if we don't kill it right away, if we just try, like, obviously after a couple weeks, we
I
generally
don't think the problem is Heroic's too easy. I still think the problem is Mythic is too hard. There's just such a big jump between the two that it's ridiculous. I think Heroic is right. I think it's like a good balance where in the beginning it's very difficult, and as you get more geared and more skilled, it becomes easy. But then the next step into Mythic is just dumb.
kill it. But a lot of the
It's just dumb.
times,
Such a
we
huge
kill it
leap.
just before or just after they go, and it's arbitrary time period. We'll just chop it in half to make it easier, and you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it goes a lot into design, really. It's because they're designing it for Race to World first. That's
They're
why
no
it's a problem.
robots.
That's why it's a problem, in all honesty. What the hell? Shit was off. That's the main problem, and that's why things are so hard for it. So Mythic raiding, I don't know what they can do to fix it other than just stop designing the raid for Race to World first. That's about it.